Okay, so now charismatic Cristina and adventurous Anita will take you to a journey. We will speak a little bit about what we've done so far, and we will give you some introduction with a little bit of theory. We will try not to be boring, just to focus on what is really important in systematic reviews. So we are going to talk about family support workforce skills in empirical research, and we will show you a part of our research with the findings in the methodology construction. I'll just give you a brief introduction into our pathway to the research of family support workforce skills. When we started within our working group 4, in thinking about family support workforce skills, it was in a way starting from the scratch. There was a big knowledge base about family support on one hand, but on the other hand, we couldn't find a clear definition that would really be enough specific for our area. So in a way, we started talking what the approach would be relevant for us, how to begin, how to construct, how to start our way to conceptualization and standardization of family support workforce. So we came to the idea that systematic review would be very helpful in this moment. So our first focus of this systematic review was about going into the research of published papers considering family support workforce skills, and I'll show you a little bit later how we did it and what were our inclusion and exclusion criteria. So it helped us also with the research question. We had a very broad one, which is very good for systematic literature review, and it helped us to focus more and more and to think into some frameworks that would help us to narrow the research area. So Cristina will tell you a little bit about the process, and then I'll go back to our research to show you our findings.
Okay, so, sorry. In here, we have done research with literature, systematic review. Anybody have done one? No?
Yes.
How many people? Sorry? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, from our group, I don't count some.
And want to make in the next month or year a systematic review. Okay, right, because if everybody have done one, we can go and make an app, for instance. But okay, so what is a systematic literature review or systematic review? Is a rigorous and comprehensive method of identifying, evaluating, and synthesizing relevant research studies on a specific research question or topic. But if you have done one, you have struggled to decide what do I do, a systematic review, a scoping review, an analytic review, or an analysis review, so it's difficult. And we are mainly, I'm going to show you what the steps we can make, some problems that we can find, how can we decide in a certain type of review or another, and then we are exemplifying with our search review and what we have found about workforce skills to family support. So with this definition, there are several steps that are common in any systematic review. First, a topic selection, then conceptualize and create a protocol. That's very important. And nowadays, I recommend to register your protocol of your systematic review, because everybody are doing systematic review in all the world. So you can choose a topic that it's very interesting, but another 10 people are working in the same field. Then searching for the studies, screening the studies with your criteria, appraise the studies, abstract the data, synthesize and interpret results. These are the main steps. Why should we do a systematic review? And why it's important, for instance, for PhD students? Well, we have to deal with a lot of information, and we lack of time, capacities of research to find, evaluate, and interpret all the evidence that are published. So systematic reviews are useful to resolve contradictory results, address issues where clinical practice is uncertain, and we work with that, parenting practices, parenting programs, workforce skills, confirm the adequacy of current practice, and highlight needs for future research. So the ultimate goal for systematic review is to summarize evidence and help people to understand it. Why should we do a systematic review? For main goals: to identify gaps in the literature, to inform evidence-based decision-making, to assess the effectiveness of intervention, and to evaluate the quality of the research. So these are the motives that we should have behind when we are making a systematic review. But certainly you have confronted with what should I do? A systematic review or a scoping review? Or a narrative review? What do I choose? So I recommend, and at the end we have some references and links of interest for you, I think. And a lady called Grant and her colleagues have made systematic reviews on type of reviews. And she identified at least 14 type of reviews. Okay, so I recommend this lecture. It's very useful, but we want to talk about the 4 main, more common reviews that are systematic reviews, narrative reviews, scoping reviews, and rapid reviews. Rapid reviews is something that all of we have done in some time of our life to make, for instance, to fundament a project, to write some paper. Sometimes we make rapid reviews, so it permits us to assess what is already known about a policy or rapid issues by using a systematic review methods to search and critical appraise resisting research, but we do it in the smart space of time, so it's not complete. Narrative reviews, we are all familiar because it's like a broad perspective about the topic, like a textbook chapter, with no specific search strategy, significant bias issues, and sometimes we do not evaluate the quality of the evidence. Then we have systematic reviews and scoping reviews. Why are they different? Because systematic review is comprehensive with minimized bias, based on a very specific question and criteria with a pre-planned protocol, and evaluates the quality of evidence. And a systematic review, as you know, can be either quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative about empirical research, quantitative about qualitative studies. The scoping reviews is different. Because we usually use scoping reviews when we do not have sufficient evidence to make a systematic review. Generally is a broader topic, a more general question, and often is done to identify if a systematic review is feasible or not. If you do a scoping review, if you have enough evidence, a lot of evidence, it's best to do a systematic review. In this table, I eliminate the rapid review and put the differences between these three types of review, namely about goals, what the question is that we must formulate for the review, the sources that we use, the type of research, the different components that include each one, the number of authors, and that is important, and the duration of process. I will pay attention in this number of authors. A systematic review cannot be made by one person. You must have at least 3 persons. You have to have a team to research, because you have to confront your search and your results and your interpretability about the results and the data with another authors. Okay. Also, it takes months to years. So if you are PhD students, remember that you cannot do a systematic review in 1 month or 2 months. Maybe in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, depends your capacity of work and your team to accompany you and to work with you. Narrative review, yes, you can do it by yourself. And then the components are different. There are some difference, namely between systematic scoping is similar, but narrative review it's more easier. You can read it after. This is only to introduce you that it's an important decision to take before do it. But is the systematic review the same thing that meta-analysis review? No, because meta-analysis implies that you use statistical techniques to integrate and summarize the results of the studies. A systematic review can contain meta-analysis review, and it's a more powerful paper, but a meta-analysis carries a lot of problems. So, first off, when you find the studies that you want to compare, you have to have the same data of that studies. And usually you don't, maybe you have one study that reports the PE and the size effect and the other don't. So you have to contact the authors of the study and ask them, please, can you give me your data? Nowadays, some journals oblige the authors to give their databases, and it's more easy, but not all of them do this. So I would think very much, if you are a PhD student and you have a limited time to present your systematic and publish your systematic review, because some PhD must have some papers published, and the systematic review is the first one that you published. Think about if it's suitable and appropriate to you to make a meta-analysis. One thing that I won't tell before is that papers with a systematic review, it's difficult to publish, but these are the more suited ones. So if you get to publish one, your index age will increase a lot, because all people are citing you. So I recommend to make a tip of the record. I recommend to prepare a systematic review and submit it to a journal that charges you tax fees. they are more easily and friendly to publish, and then you have a paper that are highly cited, okay? Well, is it bad to say this? I don't know, but we have to work with this kind of tips and tricks to get better indicators. Sorry, it's like that, it's life, we need it. So, when you combine a systematic review with a meta-analysis, by combining this information of all relevant studies, the meta-analysis allows for more accurate estimates of the effects of intervention. So if you are going to do a systematic review about interventions with family, I recommend to add meta-analysis. But if you are doing about some not interventions, I will do it only systematic review, no? Without meta-analysis. And here are the principal steps for a systematic review. Find a problem to be solved and define the research question. Check if your research question is answered already and does need further research. This is very important because many other people may have the same idea that you have, and maybe there are systematic review about a similar topic that you have published a year ago. So don't do it. Or maybe there are other people that are working in that same topic. And then that's very important to register in the protocol. Because first you have to go to a platform that I will talk later and see, is anybody researching this question? Okay. They are. So I contact her, can I work with you in your research? Can I work with you in your systematic review? We have some other skills that maybe people that only speak and understand English, we can add other things. Oh yes, I can search in Portuguese, in Spanish, in Italian, in Serbian, in... Yeah?
Where did you register the protocol?
I will show you later. There are at least 3 platforms that you can do it. So this is important. Then you must determine if systematic review is the best methodology for your research question. Imagine you have a question, you make, you simulate, and you try to do what kind of studies do you find, and you find 5 studies about that topic. Now you cannot do a systematic review with 5 studies. With 10 studies, you have at least, I don't know, 15, 20 studies about your topic to make a systematic review. And also you cannot have, imagine, 200 studies, because that means that your question is not fine enough. Okay? So we have this decision to take, build a team. Well, if you are PhD students, you have already a team. You have your supervisor, at least, I hope, and maybe other colleagues that are interested to publish and to work with you or work in a similar subjects. And then registration in the protocol. I will show 2 platforms to do it. This is a hard work to do it. I don't know, is anybody register a protocol?
Yes. Prospero.
Prospero, yeah. Well, it was difficult? No, it was easy because maybe.
Actually, it's easy for me because I was preparing. I intend to publish the protocol in the journal, but I skipped that because of some practical reasons. To don't have to wait for the years. And so we already have everything to do. So it's very easy.
I think the main difficulty to registration the protocol if you are in early stages and you have not the things defined.
Yes.
You have to have defined several things, so, and then do it.
It's important. It's just
Yeah.
when I do it, it's the first time that I developed the protocol to publish. it was very demanding. It's like to do in advance paper, to fill
Yeah,
paper. I
yeah.
already have an introduction,
Yeah.
I have a discussion of the possible results.
Yeah.
I have how to data analysis, the methodology, everything in advance. So the work is done on my own.
Yeah, and the problem is many people start to register the protocol and only have the research question and not very defined. So they start to work to ask you questions and you don't know how to answer. And sometimes you have to be strategic. You have to put a team research, because if you say, for instance, sometimes if you are a master's student, they say, sorry, we have too many people wanting to register, forget it, and reject your protocol. But if you are a PhD student and you put a team and you have your work advanced, it's okay. So after protocol registration, you have to do the literature search, carry out a thorough search of the relevant literature, screening the results based on your inclusion and exclusion criteria that are defined before the registration protocol. You extract the data. You have to use different types of tables to make this. And then one thing that's important, and nowadays every journals ask, is that in your systematic review, the studies have a quality assessment. You have to use a method to assess the quality of the studies. There are several methods. We are going to talk about that. There are Cochrane, there are Joanna Briggs Institute, JBA, and MAT. Okay, 3. There are more, but this one, they are good. They have strengths and limitations because, for instance, MAT, it's a method that evaluates qualitative the studies and recommend to not eliminate no study. I do not agree so much with that, because if you have few studies, okay, I agree with that. If you have 20 studies, we are not eliminating and we put that in limitations. But if you have, for instance, 80 studies, okay, eliminate the one that they are based. That's not useful to use that study. So then, the synthesis of research, you have to read all the studies and pick what, namely authors, year, country, kind of study, aims, methodology, main results, strengths and limitations. And then, when you have a lot of studies, and you will see it, we have 40, that's not too much, but 40, you have a gigantic table. So how can we synthesize this more, because that's not published? And you have to pick up some few indicators that show what the research that you find, what are the main topics that the research will find. Then interpretation of the findings, and finally, and easy, write and publish. Easy. Some tips. Many times we start working and we do not record anything. So we have to repeat the search several times. So one tip, record everything. What sources am I using? What search terms I write everything in a file? What filters do I use? Publication type, type studies, dates, languages, remove duplicates. Number of occurrence without filters, that's important. And but sometimes we don't do that. We not record, we not note. And 1 week later, we are going to do it and the results are different. So please note everything and put the date. 31 March, 155 studies. without filters. Applying filters, what number? Secondary reference that to use, because we find a paper that is just what we want, and in reference there are studies that we cannot get in our search, because, well, maybe the keywords that the study used were not very good, maybe the abstract was not very fine, and we did not find it. So we have to record secondary references. And what process have we used for selecting the study? Screening, eligibility, and if included in ERS. So after record all this, extract the results of the select studies. Then we have several protocols to reporting systematic reviews. The most known one, well-known one, is Prisma. But there are others. There are Cochrane, there are John Briggs Institute. You can use it. Any, it's good. But you have to mention and follow all the instructions they do. I choose Prisma because it's what I used, but another is okay. In the title, Prisma said to use a PICO's approach. In the title, you must explicit participants, intervention, comparators, outcomes, and study design. In the abstract, Prisma said that you should make a structured abstract, not structures, because this is more easy to lectures, to readers. Sorry, find what are you doing, what are your aims, your findings and conclusions. Well, introduction is like another paper, should provide a clear and concise statement of the research question or aim of the review. In aims, you repeat the PICO's approach, same thing. And in methods, it's very important to explain everything in detail about the search strategy, inclusion and exclusion criteria, how did you extract data, how did you analyze methods, and you should also provide a diagram flow, a flow diagram that is like this one.
Excuse me. Can you repeat what is comparators? In the PICO, the first one is comparator?
Yeah, what are you comparing to?
Okay.
Sometimes it does not apply, so that
Yeah,
you have
sometimes
different
not apply.
strategies, so because it's for
Yeah,
evaluation of effectiveness.
yeah,
Would that be you are comparing in terms of
program intervention.
program?
Yes.
Because PICOS is primarily, and Cochrane also, it's primarily designed to compare interventions. So you are comparing risk families with normative families, for instance, or this kind of intervention with this other one.
not who is doing the study, but what
Yeah,
is the study on?
yeah, exactly. So this is an example. You must identify the records were identified from databases, how many registered, how many records were screened, how many reports sought for retrieval, how many reports assessed for eligibility, and how many studies were included in review, and how many reports of included studies of via other methods, because sometimes we have to include other methods to complete our systematic review, namely grad literature, PhD thesis, master thesis, and other things. Okay? The important thing is to report everything and to present the diagram. Okay, then in results, you should present the findings of the review, including a summary of the characteristics of the included studies and a synthesis of the results. Discussion should provide an interpretation and including a discussion of the strengths and limitation of the studies. This is of the studies that you have reviewed, but also of your own review, systematic review. Then conclusion, that should summarize the main findings of review and provide implication for practice and future research. And also you must mention founding and conflict of interest, like another paper. Question, should we register the systematic review? Yes, at the inception, because that avoid unplanned duplication and enable to comparison of report review methods with what was planned in the protocol. Because if you don't do this, that the reviewers can say, but that what you wanted to do, but every planned another thing and didn't work, and then you change in the middle way. So you have Prospero, it's a well-known thing, and you also have Prisma statement or, and you can research it there, or you have Cochrane also. And it's easy to fulfill. You have to have some development of your work, but you can open it and see what is the protocol, and then you work on that. Other thing that is very important, and nowadays we have some tools that help us to conduct systematic review. We have some programs, someone free, someone with subscription, that helps you in different stages of your review. For instance, you have Confidence, you pay, it's a good one. You have Ryan, it's free, you have to inscribe, but you do not have to pay anything, or it's very cheap. You have Kadima, you have Acne Reviewer from Cochrane, and you have Distiller, it's small, like the here, Greek we have in lunch. Distiller SR. And here I prepared a table that you can consult later about what each program does, okay? The functions. Who helps with the protocol development, database integration, easy of import-export, duplicate removal, article screening, critical appraisal, assist with reporting, and help with your meta-analysis. So, some one are more friendly than another one, but I think it's useful. Namely, if you are doing a systematic review with a high number of records. If you have 10 studies, 20 studies, 30 studies, 50 studies, you can do it by hand. It's like content analysis. But if you have a systematic review with 80 or 100 studies, this helps a lot. Other thing that's important is to use some methods to assessment the risk of bias, okay? There are many tools, Cochrane collaboration, and mixed methods appraisal tool, and Joanna Briggs Institution, JBI, that helps you to eliminate, to assess the bias of the studies. Sometimes the journals don't ask, but more and more journals are asking to do this. This is an example. For instance, Cochrane collaboration as a method that you evaluate with red, green, or yellow. For instance, random, if the studies that you have selected add random sequence generation, allocation concealment, blinding of participants and personnel, blinding of outcome assessment, incomplete outcome data, selective reporting, other bias. This is MMAT. Is there an adequate rationale for using the mixed methods? Are different components of the study integrated into the answer to the research question? You have here the examples. And this is Joanna Briggs Institute, another method to evaluate bias. And now, I give floor to Anita.
Thank you, Cristina. So, Cristina told you all the steps that we should take once we want to construct a systematic literature. And now we are going to show you how we did it. It was a process, even though I'm going to show you how we started the process, and then I'll talk a little bit about those difficulties that we had during the analysis and during the presentation of the results. So as I told you, that systematic interviews are helping us to focus our research question. Our first question for the beginning of the search was to identify the current state of the art regarding theoretical background, research findings, and practice wisdom, and to provide a framework or a baseline, if you wish, for the classification of family support workforce skills. So we started thinking in those frameworks when we started our systematic review. We decided to choose Prisma because we were familiar with the Prisma and because it was very logical for a process. Then we started to discuss about inclusion and exclusion criteria. You have a huge body of research, and then what should be a good place to start? What should we include? So we decided to include families living with their children and families using family support services. So families who were not living with their children were not included in this search because we wanted to see how the workforce skills are applied to the whole family, which is staying together. It was difficult. That was a difficult question because we were not sure how broad should our research be. And then we decided to focus it on the biological families and families which are using family support services, living with their children, actually. The other question was which time frame to use. So we had a lot of discussions, and we decided to pick a period from 95 to 2020. Why 2020? Because the research was done in 2020. And we thought, how many years should we go behind? What is a relevant period of the scope of the research? And we decided to take this period because we thought if we go more behind, probably a lot of things has changed, so the information might not be useful. And the other things, a lot of research prior to 1995 are not accessible in the electronic databases, so it would be hard to reach for them. And sources and languages was also important criteria. I was starting this research, and our group was multinational, so we decided to include only the search on English language. So we were aware that there is a possibility of other very relevant papers which are published in other languages, but we are not going to assess them for this purpose. In the end, we found 40 papers from 6 databases. And how we did it? We applied 2 search methods to identify the studies. First, we went through an internet-based search of the literature and the scan references list and articles, and we chose these databases, PsychoInfo, Medline, Psychiatric articles, Eric Web of Science, Psychology and Behavioral Science collection. Why this? First of all, this research study was conducted during the short-term scientific mission in University of Algarve. So we had to choose from the existing databases there those databases that can reflect our research questions. So we went through all databases that are represented in the university base, and then from those we extracted the ones referring to our research questions. We couldn't assess some other databases because it was not in the scope of this university. Why I'm telling you this? Because last year I was at the University of Sheffield doing a systematic review on another topic, and I discovered there are much more databases. And if you're trying to do this systematic review in Belgrade, probably you're going to find just one database. So it matters where the search, where is the place of the search and how many databases you can access actually. So this is the samples of the search during this systematic review. What Cristina mentioned, it was really important to note exactly how we searched for our keywords. We decided to choose some keywords, which are family support or family training or supporting families, assisting families, and how to search them across various databases. This process is up and down. This is the process that might last a month or more, because you need to discover what is the proper wording. Sometimes you have an idea that you found the wonderful words, but when you put them in the search, they are not showing you the things you need, or they show you so many different research that you completely lose the focus. So the two were very, also you should know that different databases have different possibilities of search. So you need to know the different approaches and to explore them across databases. Some of the databases recognize trans strategy, and others transverse, but it depends. There is also some very cool databases that will do the whole process for you. So you just type those one I like best because they take least time, and you can very easily correct your results because they are doing the dirty job for you. And if you're not careful and you have a discount database, one letter or a spelling can make the whole difference in your search. This is how the search process looks like. So you define your searching inclusion and exclusion criteria, you define the databases, and then you apply these keywords across those databases. And we've got the number of total 8,949 papers. So that was not a nice feeling, you know, when we received these results, because you think you got into the point of something and then a huge number appears. That means that you need to apply specific filters to see what's going to happen. So we defined some filters regarding the wording of the position of the wording of keywords, and then articles, and then we started going into more and more filters. We included only those who are published in English. We excluded all those who are not peer-reviewed scientific journals. Then we excluded all those who could not be found complete. So this is a very tricky question. You can find a very good topic and excellent abstract, but you cannot find the whole research, so you need to expel this from your search. And then we came to some reasonable number of 332 studies, which we then further we read the abstracts and the whole studies, and we found, after reading first the abstract, a lot of studies will fall, because you see that even the keywords in your topic might be relevant, the abstract might not refer to the study. And when you read the whole study, it's easy to see whether this study is something you wish to further analyze or not. And then one part that was also painful was screening through reference list, because usually references are put in small letters, so you really need to be careful to screen all those references, because in the reference list you can find, and we found some articles that we missed through our filters, but that were very relevant to the topic of the research, and finally we came to this number of 40 water relief. But then the analysis started. So our data analysis included authors, names and date of publication, title, aim, country, type of study, information, data collection method, data analysis, sample size, and main findings. That was the thing we firstly tried to compare in this table to see what are those studies made from. We saw that the clients of the studies are families of neglected, abused children or children in care. That most of the studies are families with children affected by behavioral problems, families with children with disability, and minority ethnic parents. So most of the study refer to those kinds of families. And then we were looking about the professionals, and we saw that mainly in those studies we could find the social workers, followed by child protection workers, and then social workers, psychologists. It depends from the orientation which are child protection workers in which area, psychologists and pediatricians. This is the example of how it looked, our first table. This table had like 20 pages of this analysis of the main findings, strengths and limitations of each study. It was it was very important because from this we could much easier extract and analyze the data. This is the other part of the table, which consisted of the type of the study.
Excuse me. The part of the strengths and limitations is a statement that you evaluate of each study, or it's part of the study that it is factor of itself?
The study itself.
Okay.
We didn't make assessment bias.
Okay.
This is only that we could collect from the studies, all of the
Because it was the criteria for you to include all the studies who has strength and limitation.
No. This is something that that is placed in those studies, but that was relevant.
You only consider study that explain in the study.
No.
No, if I don't put anything.
But that helped us to make some conclusions, because our point was to figure out family support workforce skills. So this was an important aspect. Okay. So what we found, what are those? The question that is following us from the beginning was family support workforce skills. What can we say? What is it? So we found 3 topics referring to family support workforce skills. One referring to as qualities of the professionals. We called it attitudes and attributes. And those were some qualities such as accuracy, empathy, warmth, genuineness, and so on. Then we found technical skills, which would be in those researches, but could be applied also in various frameworks. Speaking about communication skills, planning skills, decision-making skills, and so on. So these technical skills were not so specific to the context of family support. And then specific knowledge studies were much scarcer, but we found them as well. So for us, at this moment, we found that the components of family support workforce skills are those 3. And That brought us to a conclusion that family support work skills is an important and an emerging concept, and that research needs to be further established. And we really wanted to come to the part where we could establish some kind of standardized guidelines for family support work skills in the various contexts. Our study also had some limitations because we only included the studies which are in English language. All those studies came from 5 countries in total, and only scientific papers were included. This took us to another research area because we figured out that if on the topic of family support workforce skills, if you go only to the scientific papers, you are missing a lot about the things that are published in books, across websites that are very relevant to the workforce itself. So then we decided to follow up with other studies. So, coming to the conclusion, we would say that systematic reviews have both advantages and pitfalls. What are the advantages if taken as we told you? We told you a very serious step-by-step process. I didn't find, by the way, the studies that would follow every step that you mentioned. Most of them are lacking some step, which is also fine depending on the topic. But why do we need those systematic reviews? In the beginning, I told you you're starting from the scratch. You really want to have something that is relevant. Before we discovered systematic lit reviews, what we did? We did the various types of desk research. So how do you know that the things you found were not biased? So most of them were biased. So the systematic lit review reduces those biases and helps you to actually refer to the state of the art about this topic. It provides a comprehensive overview and it identifies the gaps in the literature. So it helps you actually to think systematically and to focus on that gap if you wish to develop something. It increases precision and accuracy because you're receiving only that is covered in the area. And it facilitates evidence-based decision-making as it helps to identify the best practices or the most used practices that are on that topic. And it saves time and resources because if you're deciding to do a desk review without systematic review, not only that you're going to have all these issues, but you never know when you are done. Usually we say you're done once you start to repeat the findings, but then it depends on your own process and you have to read all the studies. This way you just read those studies that are particularly targeting your keywords and your inclusion criteria. And we also have some pitfalls. It's not a systematic review, even though it's a really good one, it's not making wonders. So we need to know that it is possible to make a publication bias as well. And it can lead to overestimation of the effectiveness of the intervention and so on. And it can bring us to make some presumptions about the quality of the studies, because if the quality of the studies are poor, and your systematically review findings can be very poor, and this is a question you invest your time and then you have to create another review. Time and resource intensive. As Cristina told you, we were doing this research, a group of us. We did it for about a year. It took us about a year to publish the findings, so it had a lot of steps. Also the preparation step. It was the first systematic review for the group, so we had to start from exploring different types, steps, approaches, everything before we finalized the topic. And also limitations of the review process. This might lead to exclusion of relevant studies that can happen. as well. So it's much better when you have two reviewers who could go through all, at least two, who can go through all finalized studies, and then you have a better look and a better finding of what is particularly important for your topic. So we came to an end. You're very welcome. Do we have?
So the last two ones, please.
You will receive this with all the useful resources and references where you can download and read about systematic risk review, which will help you to construct your own. I don't know if we have more time. No.
What do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe not.
Questions.
Yeah, questions, yes, I think questions.
Yeah.
Can you come back to the slide, please?
Which one? This one?
Not
This one.
the point for the facilitates evidence-based decision making. Do you mean that if I'm thinking about, if I want to design an intervention or propose an intervention,
Or choose an intervention.
or choose an intervention, this is useful in order to know what works better, okay? But something that I'm not sure I understand
This
is
with the meta-analysis. for
evaluating
lab
the
purpose.
effectiveness of intervention over time, of interventions over time. Does it mean that it's useful to evaluate the impact of an intervention I'm thinking to use? No. I mean,
This
I am clear that it's useful to evaluate, to have an evaluation, not to evaluate, to know, to have an evaluation of what exists and
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Let's be very concrete. When you choose something and you say this intervention works well, you need to know why. It's not, if it is because, it might be because this is something I could find, or this is something I could get, but the systematic lit review tells you this is something that works best according to the data.
But I couldn't use it to know if my intervention I
No.
implement
No.
is.
No, you can't
Not
use
for
that.
everything.
No,
This is the first step.
only if your intervention,
Okay.
Has been
your
already covered.
intervention has
That's
been
really clear, because the last
has been
time-
already applied for other people
Yes, yes.
during a period of time. And then you can compare the results.
You
Okay.
can
And,
show
Thank you
and
very
to
much.
choose an intervention, I recommend to make a systematic review with a meta-analysis to see effect sizes and to compare better things.
Thank you very much.
We saw a lot of PhD theses that are choosing definition, for example, and they choose the definition without proper explanation. Why do you choose this? Because you find this? Because this is something that is according to your background of the research? Which is the reason? This helps you to say that the reason is what is the most researched in the area.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for your lecture. And so, if I understand, the source that you offer is from the outcome of the literature review. I want to ask if there are some source to writing the protocol, some guideline to writing the protocol or the review.
There is
Yes,
we give you
yes. In the
literature.
this one, you have
Okay.
some useful resources. You have Prisma, Cochrane, John and Briggs Institution that
Okay.
have a complete manual for free
Okay.
and very good ones, better than what we talk.
Okay.
More specific, more detailed, and
We
it
brought
helps you in every kind of systematic review.
Just one question. Yeah, and also we were recently not using one protocols.
I just, how you want listening? I was saying that just you have also recently for protocols.
Yeah, PC. Yeah.
But what I will ask you is about you thought that maybe you when you are your students will be locally you will not.
Sorry, I
Maybe
can't hear you.
local quality studies not included in your systematic review.
No, we have included.
Ah, okay, okay.
We have included quantitative and qualitative studies.
And also literature reviews.
Oh,
Quality assessment.
okay.
Yeah,
I was
we have to include everything because that were not so much.
Okay, it was what I was commenting is like if we can do the same, we include it and then run the analysis and then again exclude it and run the analysis comparing the results. If
Yeah.
the local of studies will have something to.
I think it depends of your research question.
Okay.
Because if you want to know whatever the studies, in our case, what studies say about workforce skills, it has no sense to exclude qualitative studies. Why?
No, I think I was misunderstood. I'm not saying about qualitative studies. I'm saying studies with low quality.
Because we in this research were not so expert and systematic reviews, and we did not make bias assessment.
Ah, okay.
Okay, we are doing now another one with bias assessment.
Okay. I was saying because
But I think even if we made it,
It would be.
it would be difficult to exclude studies
Yeah.
because you have a few studies.
If you decide to have the risk of bias analysis, you do at the beginning when you have the huge amount of study or later?
No, you later,
Finish after you.
Yeah.
After you come.
and
to
then
the
you
analysis.
present this table, you know, because first you have to the please move. No. You wait. You include the 40 studies at the end, okay? Analyze all the studies, and then you put here, another column, and you say the quality, and you decide if exclude or not exclude. If you have a few, maybe it's better to not exclude. If you have a lot, yes, exclude the low ones.
Or if you have those with a similar quality, then it's difficult
Yeah.
to say which one to exclude. So you need a reason.
And you have to explicit that. I did not exclude anyone. And then you can choose, because some methods say do not exclude anyone, just point out if they are high, low, or medium. So according to the authors, I did not exclude anyone.
Professor, just to comment.
Yeah.
I was reading that when you do this, like you have just including the high quality studies and then including the low quality studies in there, you can see the bias in the results that are that result from the bias of the studies, because you see, okay, the pattern of the results are completely different, so there are the influence of.
You can make that also.
There is a lot of opportunities here.
Yeah.
So it depends of what are you doing and what is the topic of the research also, how specific or general it is. Our issue was that we wanted to find something that is very broad, but also very specific. And this is a difficult thing to catch.
And about your question, the important thing is to explain and justify what you have done. You can then in one way or in another, but you say, I will do this because I think it's important to this, this, and this. And it's okay. And then you wait for the reviewers. They may be smart, they may be stupid, so.
Or they may just reflect on something.
What software did you use for reviewing amongst yourselves?
What?
When you reviewed the article, what software did you use?
We didn't use anyone by hand, yeah.
Alright, so because
Only for the studies, so.
I did, when I was working to the systematic review for here, I actually did like you know, I was part of the organization, but on a collaboration on a systematic review with people from the Society for Research in Adolescence, and we actually use competence, and
Yeah.
it's the best
Yeah.
thing ever. It's so
But you have to pay a lot.
So highly recommend.
Yeah. Confidence is, I think, is the best, because I know someone that ever made a systematic review about tools to do systematic review, and she found that confidence, it was the best, but you have to pay and a lot. So if you have founding, great. If you don't have founding, you can use Ryan, and it's good also.
I was just even,
Yeah.
you don't know who else reviewed it, so you won't even have your colleague being biased because he might agree with you.
Yes, that's the limitation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can make just a very specific comment about the registration. Apart from the reasons that you say, for practical reasons, there are ethical reasons for sure for doing it. But I think it's becoming almost mandatory. I don't know your experience, but I think that most of journals are not accepting reviews that are not registered. So as that's something that you cannot solve at the end, just making that explicit that probably you are getting troubles to publish if you are not registered. And it's quite easy.
Yes?
So just to bring it back to the research question
Yeah.
and the issue, which is when we started this work, we said, well, what are family support skills? So this has given us a foundation and a clarity about our start point. You know, and this is so important for us as we build it now. And it led in, obviously, to what was discussed this morning in terms of the Delphi. But that start point and that confidence in the start point,
Yes.
said there is not very much out there, but what there is tells us these things.
Yes, that's where we started.
Yeah, so it's,
And
I think,
it was very important to start it with this because
so and we go to our
And-
product,
we go to after the book and manuals review, and we said that's not enough. We have not sufficient empirical data and enough, and now a Delphi study.
yeah. And again, it gives to influence and to tell policymakers, okay, this is something and this is what it looks like, and what we're giving you is really robust and scientific. So it's that confidence then that they can say, okay, and we can talk about our work with great confidence and without any fear.
Just a final comment for those developing interventions related on your comment. The guidelines on publishing effectiveness evaluation are saying that you have to provide empirical evidence of your intervention, if possible, based on systematic reviews. So for those that are, for example, you introduce a proposal, so what's the models that are behind, what's the previous effectiveness, why are you doing so, and so on. So I think it's so relevant for
And-
some intervention.
Also, it's very useful if you want to build a new measure instrument.
Yes, also measures,
Very important because
program.
if you want to construct something new, you have to say why. Because there are the ones that exist, they're not good enough. They not evaluate exactly what I want, so I'm gonna build one. Okay? So, thank you very much.